All right, let's jump into a deep dive today, all about, well, the Pyrenees Mountains.
Sounds fantastic.
Yeah. We've got this really cool article called An Incredible Hike on the Secluded Trails of the Pyrenees.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, it's pretty packed with information, so we're going to try to pull out the most interesting parts for you today.
Definitely.
Imagine, like, rugged mountain peaks, right?
Yeah.
These, like, valleys that are full of secrets and a kind of solitude that I think is really hard to find in some of those mountain ranges that everybody knows about.
Yeah. What I find really fascinating about the Pyrenees is that they're like a natural border, right, between France and Spain.
Right.
So they're not just mountains, they're this like historical and cultural crossroads, you know?
Totally. And the article talks about this too, right? It's like
Yeah.
they separate these cultures, but they also serve as this meeting point. And I love that.
Yeah.
You think about all the people who've been through there, right?
Yeah.
Pilgrims, travelers, shepherds, like centuries of people
Right.
walking those same trails. It's
Yeah.
pretty cool.
It adds a whole other dimension to hiking there, right? Like, especially all those ancient trails, like that pilgrimage route that goes to Santiago de Compostela.
Yeah.
Can you imagine, all those people who have walked those trails for, like, I don't know, hundreds of years?
Yeah, that's awesome.
It's really something.
I know. Well, speaking of like the past informing the present, one thing the article really focuses on is like what makes the Pyrenees stand out, say, compared to like the Alps.
Right.
And I think they really hit it on the head. It's the solitude, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Like it seems like it's the perfect place to just get away from everything.
It really is. I think more and more people are looking for that these days. They
Right.
want something authentic.
Yeah.
They want to get away from the crowds and be in nature, and you can definitely do that in the Pyrenees.
Yeah, totally. And, okay, you're not going to believe this,
Oh, yeah.
but I was reading about the wildlife
Oh, yeah.
and I had no idea. Like, it's
Mhm.
incredible. They've got, get this, bearded vultures flying around. And then there are these marmots that are like running all over the place.
That's amazing.
I know. And I mean, there's even a chance, like, however small, that you might see a European brown bear.
Oh, my goodness.
Hopefully from a distance, obviously.
Yeah, of course, of course.
But still, that's amazing, right?
No, it's incredible. And it's also really cool because it shows how much the Pyrenees are dedicated to, like, protecting the environment, right?
Right.
Like, those bearded vultures, they're endangered, so it's great that they have this place to live.
Totally. So it's like more than just a physical challenge when you go there.
Exactly.
It's also about like appreciating how special and delicate the whole ecosystem is, which I think is really cool.
Definitely.
Okay, so you've convinced me, like, I've got to go.
Yeah.
But how? How do I even begin to, like, explore these amazing trails?
Yeah.
Well, the article lays out 3 main routes for hiking there.
Okay.
So first up, we've got the GR10, which runs all the way across France, and it's known for being super historic and also a good one for, like, intermediate hikers, not, the super hardcore people.
Right, right.
And then there's the GR11, which is kind of its counterpart, but on the Spanish side. And this one goes through areas that are way more wild.
Yeah, and the GR11 has this amazing national park, the Ordesa y Montepedido National Park.
Oh, wow, I've heard of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and the landscapes there are really incredible.
How so?
They're dramatic and rugged and just beautiful. If you're into photography, that's the place to be. Have you ever been somewhere that just, like, takes your breath away?
Oh, tons of times. Like, I remember this one time.
Yeah, it's a feeling you just don't forget. Speaking of unforgettable, the article talks about this other trail, the HRP, which stands for, get this, Haute Randonnée Pyrénéenne.
Wow, that's a mouthful.
I know, right? And it's like, for the serious adventurers, the people who really want to push themselves.
So, like, what makes it so challenging, this HRP?
Well, imagine, like, okay, so you're going over these high mountain passes, right? Some of them are, like, over 3,000 meters high.
Oh, man.
And you're in these valleys that are, like, super remote, far from any towns or anything.
So you're basically on your own out there.
Pretty much. You really need to know how to use a map and compass to find your way around. So it's not for beginners, that's for sure.
Gotcha. So it's not just about being fit enough. You really got to know what you're doing out there.
Absolutely.
Now, the article also mentioned that you need some pretty specific gear if you're going to tackle the Pyrenees, like beyond the usual stuff you'd pack for a hike.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say are like the most important things to bring?
Well, good boots are obviously essential,
Right.
but you also really need to think about layers because the weather can change so fast up there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And packing enough food and water is super important too because you might not be able to find places to restock along the way.
Oh, that's a good point.
Yeah, you don't want to be caught out there without enough supplies.
No, definitely not. And forget about relying on those, like, clearly marked trails, right?
Yeah. You're going to need that map and compass, especially if you're doing something like the HRP.
I'm starting to see why it's only for the experts. So, okay, let's talk timing. When's the best time to actually, like, go on these hikes? The article mentions a few different options, which is cool.
Yeah, there are definitely a few different ways to approach it, depending on what you're looking for.
Okay, so let's say I'm someone who loves, like, sunshine and warm weather, and I want to see all those wildflowers in bloom.
Then summer's probably the best time for you, like June to September.
Yeah, that makes sense.
You'll have the most daylight hours for hiking, and the weather is usually pretty stable, but it's also the most popular time to go, so you'll see more people on the trails.
Right, that's the trade-off.
Exactly. Now, if you're more into solitude and you don't mind a little bit of, unpredictable weather,
Okay, I'm listening.
then late spring, like May, or early fall, like October, could be really nice.
I can see that. Fewer crowds and, like, the fall colors in the mountains must be amazing.
Oh, they're breathtaking, but yeah, you might get some rain or even a bit of snow, so you need to be prepared for anything.
Fair enough. And I think the article mentioned winter hiking too, right?
Yeah.
But that sounds pretty intense.
Yeah. Winter is definitely a whole other level. You need a lot of experience and special gear for that. It's not something to just jump into.
Right, like ice axes and crampons and all that.
Exactly.
Maybe someday. But let's stick with the warmer months for now. Speaking of which, after a long day of hiking, where do people usually stay? I imagine there aren't a ton of hotels up in those mountains.
Well, you'd be surprised. The article talks about two main types of accommodation, each with its own charm.
Okay, tell me more.
So, for the real authentic experience, there are these mountain refuges.
Refuges. I like the sound of that.
Yeah. They're basically these simple shelters. They're often in these amazing locations, and they'll give you a warm meal and a place to sleep, and you get to meet all these other hikers from all over the world.
That sounds so cool. Like, I bet you hear some amazing stories from people at those places.
Oh, definitely. It's a really unique social experience, bonding with other people who love the outdoors.
Yeah, I can imagine. But what about if you're someone who prefers, like, a little more comfort? Are there other options?
Absolutely. There are also some really charming guest houses and small hotels in the villages that are near the trails.
Oh, okay. I like that idea too. A little pampering after a day of hiking sounds pretty nice.
Yeah, it's a good way to relax and recharge, and the article actually mentions a few villages specifically.
Yeah.
Gavarni, Cadares, and Torla, they're all supposed to be really beautiful and have great access to the trails.
So you can have the best of both worlds, like adventure during the day and then, like, cozy evenings in a cute little town. I love it.
Exactly, and I think that's what's so special about the Pyrenees. It's this balance between challenge and peacefulness.
Yeah, I'm totally getting that vibe. Yeah, it really does sound like there's something for everybody in the Pyrenees, whether you're, like a hardcore hiker or you just want to kind of, like, take it easy and enjoy the scenery.
Right.
Well, as we wrap up our deep dive here, I got to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired.
Me too.
Like, I'm ready to book a ticket and go.
I know, right? There's something about the Pyrenees that just makes you want to, like, get out there and experience it all firsthand.
Definitely. And I think it's more than just, like, the physical challenge of it.
Yeah.
It's like you were saying earlier, it's a chance to reconnect with nature and maybe even with yourself.
Right.
It's like you can just hit, like, a reset button on everything.
I like that.
I remember reading somewhere that the Pyrenees were like a place of spiritual pilgrimage way back in the day. And, I can totally see why.
Yeah, there's definitely a special energy there, like a sense of timelessness that's hard to find these days.
It's true. So for anyone listening, if you're feeling that pull, that sense of adventure calling you to, explore the path less traveled,
Right.
well, the Pyrenees are waiting.
They are.
And who knows, maybe someday I'll see you out there on the trail.
I hope so.
We can swap stories under the stars.
That sounds perfect, but don't just, take our word for it.
Right.
Go and, like, look at the maps and research the different routes and really picture yourself standing on top of one of those peaks looking out at the world.
Yeah, that's the best way to do it.
The Pyrenees really do offer this incredible chance to, like, discover not just new places, but a whole new way of seeing things.
Well said. Happy hiking, everyone.